We've got people here that if we could have Gayle Barnes, and Gayle, if you go ahead and stand up. Gayle, Tony, okay. These two guys ran the water line all the way up here, and were instrumental in getting the water up here, so that Tony over here, our landscaper, now he can stand up, okay, and Tony can come up here and do this fabulous job of putting in everything and leveling the cemetery from top to bottom, going ahead and standing up some of the headstones, making them straight. So this has been an ongoing trial for him. I mean, it's interesting that to have somebody who is willing now for over a year to go ahead and get up in the morning at dark 30, drive 2 hours down here, 2.5 sometimes probably to get down here, work a whole day down here, turn around, drive 2.5 to 3 hours back up north of Salt Lake, 4 days a week, and that's just, what an incredible thing to go ahead and put that much energy, that much effort. But we want to thank his wife for allowing him to go ahead and do that, to put in 4.5 hours driving a day, plus a whole day of work down here in the sun and everything. So the interesting part is he would go ahead and get this whole thing all nice and leveled, get everything ready to go, and then we'd have the big storm, and then we'd have nothing but everything washed all the way down here to the road, right? And then it'd back over it again, go back and redo everything over again, rake it all back level again, and be able to go ahead and put the sod in and be able to do that. The other thing that was interesting in this whole process was that we put the sod in, and then unbelievably, the sod actually retained water, other than having almost like solid concrete dirt, because you watch these guys out here with their shovel trying to, get through the top part of the layer of this dirt out here, and then you understand, and he might not understand, that when they used to go back in, they used to dig the graves here with dynamite. Okay, they literally would go up to the old quarry and get dynamite and come down here and be able to blast the dirt out, so that it was so hard to go ahead and be able to bury somebody. So anyway, so Tony's had to put up with that, and so once we put the sod in, then actually the sod retained water, and the water went down in the ground, and we had this great big 8 sinkholes on the first level here, that then he had to go pull all the sod back up again, fill in all the sinkholes. And we had sinkholes literally that were almost 2 feet deep up here in a couple of places. And he had to go back and redo that and pull the sod, redo it all over again. So anyway, this has been a process to go ahead and get this to the place where we're at right now, and the Leamington has been blessed by having the Sorenson family buried up here. There's over 20 family members that are buried up here, and if you're looking around at the signage in the cemetery, thanks to Marcia Pack, the signs mark the 60 oldest pioneers buried in the cemetery. And so there's a bio by each one of those headstones of the 60 oldest pioneers that are buried here in the headstone. So it's a walking tour that you can spend time anytime today or anytime this next week. Go ahead and walk around and look at that. But without further ado, I would like to have Joe come forward, and he wants to give us a little history, a little family history. And so, Joe, if you come forward, please. And we want to thank Kathleen, who also is, go ahead and stand up, if you would, please join Kathleen. Okay, it's the Joseph and Kathleen Sorenson Legacy Foundation that provided the revenue, provided the resources to go ahead and have this looking like the oasis in the middle of the desert. So we're just grateful. We'll be grateful when we have the trees planted all the way around the outside as a windbreak, and so we might go ahead and mitigate a little bit of this wind that comes in here from the north and from the southwest. But Joe, if you'll come forward and go ahead and have your presentation, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'm really grateful and thankful for the great efforts that have put this together, and I have to be really grateful to my father and his great resources that have blessed our family to be able to do great things like this. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our ancestor that came here and helped settle this area. Of course, he was Hans Ole Sorenson. He was born in 1849 in Norway on Goat Island, and he was the second of 11 children. His father owned Goat Island, which was 5 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide. The island was surrounded by trees, and the central portion was for pasturing cows, goats, and other animals. The family was able to provide for most of their needs from the island and their animals and produce at the nearby town of Leamington. At the age of 14, on one of his boat trips to Leamington, Hans heard some of the Mormon elders talking about Joseph Smith receiving some gold plates. They gave him a copy of the Book of Mormon. When he told his parents about the Mormons, they were angry with him and told him if he joined the church, they would have nothing to do with him. For 3 years, Hans investigated the church and felt the spirit at the meetings he attended. He wanted to know if Joseph Smith was a prophet, because many people ridiculed him and told evil stories about him. Hans' faith was strong that God would give him an answer. Hans decided to pray in the moonlight by the barn and ask God in the name of Jesus Christ if Joseph Smith was a prophet, and looking and listening, heard a still small voice saying, "Joseph is a true prophet of God. The gospel is true. Why are you waiting to be baptized and receive the gospel?" He was wondering if that was his answer to his prayer. Was looking to see something and saw 2 lights in the air a little way from him that gave him a testimony from the Spirit that it was from God. He then went outside to give praise to the Lord, and as he was praising the Lord, a flock of birds were singing a beautiful song, and he had never heard birds sing at night like that at night. Soon after this experience, Hans was ostracized from his family, and they never would talk to him. He was on his own. Hans decided he wanted to immigrate to Utah to join the saints there. He got a job on a Norwegian freighter as a cook's helper. He traveled to Liverpool, Copenhagen, and New York, then back to Norway. He earned enough money to go to Utah. He was baptized in Copenhagen, Denmark, then came to Utah in 1870. His first job was at the Alta mine in Little Cottonwood Canyon. Later, Hans met Bertha Caroline Rostrom and Anna Maria Benson. They were friends that had come to Utah from Sweden. After a courtship, Hans married Bertha at the Endowment House in Salt Lake in April 1875, and Anna was unhappy being separated from her friend Bertha. They had talked about being married to the same man during their time together. Anna would not come to live with them, so Hans married Anna in October 1875. They first settled in Payson. At this time, the prophet Brigham Young asked some of the saints in Payson to go help settle Millard County. Hans was chosen to go, and he moved with his wives to Leamington in 1883 to settle there. They had 2 homesteads. Millard County was a harsh area for newcomers. The ground was not sufficiently broken up or received enough water to raise grain. For this reason, Hans raised sugarcane and made a molasses mill. 1 acre could produce 100 gallons of molasses, and grain would only produce 20 to 30 bushels an acre. And 1 gallon of molasses was worth 1 bushel of grain, and the grain had to be cut by hand since there was no machinery. Hans had 2 homes for his 2 wives in Leamington. Bertha was a 1-room cabin near the Sevier River, and Anna had 2 rooms dug into the side of a hill with 2 windows and 2 ends. Bertha was the mother of 6 children: Hilma, Hiram, Louisa, Alice, Hilda, and Heber. 2 of their children died at birth. Anna was the mother of 5 children: Oliver, Hilma, Joseph Leonard, my great-grandfather, Annie and Edith. Oliver lived to age 4 and Edith lived 6 months. Bertha died in 1890 and then Anna took care of all the children. Hans would do what he could to make ends meet. He would trade a gallon of molasses for a bushel of grain and take his grain to Nephi to be ground into flour. There was not much money exchanged. Hans worked in the winter hauling cedar wood for the railroad company to make charcoal in the cone-shaped coal kilns to burn in their engines, as they could not get coal then. According to Heber Sorenson, Hans' homestead was about 3 miles from Leamington, and he had no water to feed his crops. He and his sons, Hiram and Joseph, my great-grandfather, surveyed a route for a ditch using only a level and a board 6 inches wide and 6 feet long, with large numbers spaced 1 foot apart. And everyone thought it would not work, but it did, and brought water 3 miles to water his crops. Hans worked unloading ore from the railroad cars at the smelter with a wheelbarrow on a plank 1 foot wide to dump in a bin, and sometimes there was 800 pounds in the wheelbarrow. He was paid $3 a day for this work. Hans bought a horse-powered thrashing machine with 5 other men and thrashed the grain around the area. Hans had to do all the repairing and oiling, and it took 5 teams of horses to do the thrashing. In 1900, Hans bought a creamery that had an upright steam boiler and steam engine to drive the cream separator and warm the milk. He had to gather the milk from the people in Leamington by team and wagon in 8-gallon cans, then deliver the skim milk to the people. Sometimes he had 200 pounds of butter a week. Hans was superintendent of the Sunday School in Leamington Ward for over 13 years, and in those days there were no automobiles, and Hans only had a team and wagon for transportation. Hans went on a mission to the Scandinavian Mission in November 1906 as a missionary for the church in Norway, distributed hundreds of tracts and over 50 books, and teaching family and friends about the gospel, including his sister Lydia, that then joined the church. Hans returned from his mission in January of 1809, and in that same year his second wife Anna passed away. Hans then married Karen Hagenston and lived with her till she died in 1934. Hans was always healthy and strong. He lived to be 95 years old. There was a newspaper article showing Hans signing war bonds in 1941 at 92 years old. He was a great supporter of U.S. forces. So anyway, great heritage. It's great to help out in this area with the great ancestors that came and built this area. And I'm really proud for what they did and what they accomplished. Anyway, thank you.
So I hope you found that as interesting as I did. Okay, just so that you know, the Sorensons had their family estate, they lived down by Jerry and Ann Finlinson, okay, right where Doug Nielsen has his farm, and Joe is thinking about it and plotting here to go ahead and make that into a family heritage park, and so we're hoping that takes place. That'd be really interesting, and I know that this is something that is on his mind that he's thinking about. I think that'll be a wonderful addition to our community if that comes about. At this point in time, we'd like Joe to come back up here just a minute. Joe and Kathleen. We'd like to go ahead and present them this beautiful plaque here. It says, "Thanks and gratefully, the town of Leamington thanks and gratefully acknowledges the generous donation of the Joseph and Kathleen Legacy Foundation, Joe Sorenson, President, for making possible the beautification of our cemetery for future generations to enjoy." So we want to go ahead and do that. In addition, here we'll go ahead and give Kathleen a nice shirt when she gets down there, but it'll be the 150th anniversary. For those of you who do not realize, this year is the 150th anniversary of Leamington. Okay, we just passed the 75-year point for the Leamington Day celebration. I know exactly how old that celebration is because I was born the first year it was ever put on, and so that makes it very easy to go ahead and figure out for me. But we want to go ahead and give him this beautiful t-shirt that we had made up this year. These will be the t-shirts that you'll be able to get, and it goes ahead and says the Leamington Day celebration 75 years. All right. So in addition, we want to go ahead and have Gayle Barnes come up here if he would. We want to thank him for not only putting the water line up here, but replacing the last 2,500 or 2,600 feet of our asbestos pipeline on Center Street and creating that great mess there, that we hopefully was going to have overlaid with asphalt, but then it rained on us, poured on us, so we couldn't go ahead and have the roads put in. But come Monday, the 13th, everybody's got to go ahead and pray for good weather for 3 days, and we'll get 2 brand new roads, and so that'll be awesome. So we want to go ahead and
you folks got to understand, we was paid handsomely to do this work, really, really well, and everyone in this community treated us like gold. This is probably one of the funnest jobs I've ever done. So I appreciate you being grateful for us, but we're the ones that's grateful.
Yeah, you did such a great job, Gayle. Just awesome. For those that don't understand, we went ahead, we had to put a 1,000-foot extension onto our community pipeline, okay, and we asked Todd, when might you be able to get to that? And Todd goes, I don't know when I'll be able to get to it. I'm really busy right now. And Gayle goes, well, hey, I'll go dig and install the pipeline if you'll get me the pipe. And so I told the people, man, order that thing today. Get that pipe coming here in 2 days so he can put it in the ground. He put our 1,000-foot extension in the ground. So that was just a great benefit to the community also. So thank you. Okay.
Todd Tolley.
So Tony. So we want to make sure that we recognize, the guru here on landscaping. Okay, that trailer has been parked here forever, along with the equipment. And so anyway, it's just been an absolute pleasure to work with this perfectionist. And he truly is. And we understand that when he gets through with the project, that his name is going to go on that project, and therefore that's why he's such a perfectionist at doing the work. And he also understands that's why Joe hires him to not only work on this project but a lot of his own projects, okay, because Joe wants and knows that his foundation's name is going to go on the project too. We're going to have a beautiful sign here that will go on the side of the building that will explain all this, okay. But at this point in time, I just want to go ahead and give Tony a chance to say a few words if he wants, and go ahead and recognize him for the fabulous job that he did.
So I just want to take a second and thank you, Joe and Kathleen, for letting me do this for you guys, and then everybody here, thank you.
Okay, we got one more person really that labored and put in so much time for the town and drove the distance and everything like this. And so Joe's compatriot, Tony, if you come forward, please. This is a guy that spent hours and hours and hours seaming multiple lengths of pipe together to run this pipeline all the way up here to the cemetery. He sat by that machine for days and days and days, doing nothing but seaming pipe lengths together to go ahead and run up here. So we want to recognize him for all the efforts that he put in to go ahead and get the water up here to the cemetery. So thank you, buddy. Yeah. You want to say anything?
Yeah, I can just touch on what Gayle said. It was one of the funnest jobs we've done, and everybody treated us great, and yeah, it was awesome.
So at this point in time, we'd like to go ahead and have Matt Colson come forward, if he would, please. And Matt will go ahead and give us a dedicatory prayer on the cemetery. And so we could have everybody remove your